by reciting the congregational prayer. The words will be shown on the TV screen. Please join me. Let us now pray together. We offer our salutations to the all-loving being who endows all beings with consciousness. We meditate on the Lord, who is the origin of the universe. Lord, thou abidest in all. Thou art all. Thou assumest all forms. Thou art the origin and goal of all. Thou art the self of all. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss. Salutations unto thee. May the world be peaceful. May the wicked become gentle. May all creatures think of mutual welfare. May their minds be occupied with what is spiritual and abiding. May our hearts be immersed in selfless love for the Lord. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Our program tonight features a guest speaker. He's a well-known figure here at Vedanta Society providing services. You may know him as the sound person for musical concerts as well as doing other works here. He's past speaker, which is probably his most important credential. And he's always giving interesting talks with very unique perspective. His selected topic for this evening is the making of Swami Vivekananda. So please welcome to the Vedanta podium, Abhijit, Sarcar.
जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मामेति सोऽर्जुन. Thank you, Chet, and welcome, friends. This was just a quotation from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is saying, Arjuna, whoever gets to know me and my birth, upon leaving this body, will not have to come back again. He will attain me. He will attain the ultimate. We keep telling here that each soul is potentially divine, and that to realize that potential, that divinity, is the goal of life. One of our friends here, he doesn't like that. He says, life, we are divine, period. It's not potentially divine. And that's true. I mean, the scripture says, Sarvam Hyetat Brahman, everything is Brahman. But then, since we don't know that, we're still potentially divine. And potential meaning that the potential has a part of a force, right? Each potential has a force. So there's a tendency, there's a drag towards that divinity. If we were pure enough, we would just get absorbed in that, in our purity right then and there. But since we are not, we have this world, and we have to negotiate. Even though the drag is there, that drag manifests itself into all different beings, and we get dragged, like Swami says, we go after, oh man, oh woman, oh money, give us happiness. But this is what Sri Krishna is saying, that come to me, understand me, and that's all that you need to do. Get to know my life, get to know my teachings. And that's exactly Sri Ramakrishna would also say, that, a cow is cow all over, And it's from the nose to the ears to the horns, all the way up to the tail. It's a cow, But if you want to get nourished, you have to go to the others, because that's so, meaning that we have to go to these people, these so-called avatars or immense spiritual beings. And that's what we try to do when we try to study the lives of people like Swami Vivekananda. But there is, Saradananda ji makes a caveat there, that it's true that studying the lives is a spiritual exercise, but it's very possible that if you don't have what he calls deep faith and reverence, you may just feel like, oh, it's just yet another story. What's the big deal? One event after the other, and end of the story. It's not that big that's not an interesting story either. But for those who have deep faith and reverence, you will really find it interesting. Over and over, you'd want to keep hearing, and every time you hear, you'll discover more and more layers of truth. And ultimately, this is a spiritual practice, like any other spiritual practice. You keep growing, you like what you do, and ultimately, when you know that the life of such people in its true essence, the job is done. So, today I'm speaking about Swami Vivekananda, the making of Swami Vivekananda. And I'm glad I'm speaking in this audience. I know many of you people, deep faith and reverence. So I'm glad to be here now. So when Swami first gave me the topic, he said, you'll be talking about how Narendranath became Vivekananda. And so immediately, my thoughts started going in that direction. But then when the topic came, it said, the making of Swami Vivekananda. And I thought, okay, it could possibly mean what did Swami Vivekananda make, like the Vedanta Society or the Ramakrishna Mission or the disciples. That could mean a making of Swami Vivekananda. Or it could mean, what is he made of? Like he used to say, people should have muscles of iron, nerves of steel. That's the making. I mean, what is the making of Swami Vivekananda? So these are the few anchor points, and as we go along, we'll keep them in mind. But the story really starts with the vision of Sri Ramakrishna. And normally people like us, we daydream. When we try to meditate, our minds go back and forth into future and past. But people like Sri Ramakrishna, they don't have these problems, but they do have visions. And one thing about vision is that it's rooted in reality. And in this vision, suddenly his mind started soaring and into higher and higher realms, subtle and subtle realms, into the realms of ideas. And from then on, it just rose on, where he had visions of gods and goddesses, until it just went, and there was only light, what he calls an undifferentiated luminous region. This is his own. He's relating this story. And from that undifferentiated luminous region, he goes into another realm. He says, where there is, even the gods and goddesses don't have access to that realm. And he sees these 7 rishis. And he's marveling at those rishis, how much devotion, knowledge, faith they have. And they are all rooted in samadhi. And while he is in wonder, he sees a little child coming out from the same region, the same luminous region. And this boy, he just goes and wraps around his neck around one of the rishis and tries to get his attention. And as this rishi slightly opens his eyes, the rishi is thinking, this child is the treasure of my heart. He's having that kind of a feeling. And the boy also, with great joy, he speaks and says, I'm going down. Won't you come with me? And later on, Sri Ramakrishna explains that rishi was no other than Swami Vivekananda. He had this vision a little time ago before he was to meet Vivekananda, that Narendranath actually that time. And that little child was none other than himself. So that child was to come down, and with his love, he wanted to drag along this rishi to be part of the play. And then this is the time of Sri Ramakrishna where he slowly, all his devotees who he was expecting in his life are coming down, trickling in. Still he's waiting for this rishi to come. One day he's seated in his cot in Dakshineshwar, and from the door that is facing the Ganges, which is the Ganges is flowing north to south. And I don't know how many of you have been to Dakshineshwar. There's a door which leads up to directly towards the Nahabath and the Pine Grove. On the left is Ganges, and on the right, further up, is another door that leads up to the outer veranda. That is part of the outer complex, and the temple complex, which is of which this room is part of, is onto the back and to the right. Anyways, so this boy comes in, and he's immediately, Sri Ramakrishna looks at him and looks at his eyes, penetrating eyes, and he wonders, wow, this boy, his entire mind is like, most of his mind is rooted inside, and he's awestruck at looking at him, and he's thinking, who is this boy? What's he doing in Calcutta? And he's kind of disheveled. His dress is not that is kind of shabby, and he came with some of his friends, and they were all nicely dressed probably, but their eyes were all grabbing, nature. So Sri Ramakrishna actually had a chance to meet Narendranath before that, but this time he says, okay, can you sing a song? And so Narendranath sings this song, Oh my mind, let us go back to our own abode. And Sri Ramakrishna, even he's trying to, he cannot keep himself down, he's just going into ecstasy. He sings a couple of songs, and that Sri Ramakrishna knows who this boy is. He grabs his hand, takes him to the outer veranda, closed the doors behind him, and it was winter time, so all the curtains are down, there's enough privacy. And he says, with joy, I've been waiting for you. Where were you all this time? I'm so tired talking to all these worldly people, and talking about worldly things. My ears are like all burned up. Where were you? And then, what surprised Narendranath, totally taken by surprise, he folds his hands and says, oh, you are none other than Narayana. You have come to this world to take care of the people, to save them. And Narendranath, his reaction was probably not different than if any one of us would have been in that place. It's like, I'm son of Vishwanath Datta. What is he? Is he sane? Is there something wrong with this person? But at the same time, he's so sincere. And anyways, he almost force feeds him some snacks and goodies. And then he says, okay, you have to keep coming back here. But then when he goes inside, he's talking very normal, very with lot of renunciation, and he can see all that in him, and he's kind of a little confused, but he puts up this question in front of him, which he had been putting in front of many people: have you seen God? And to his surprise, Sri Ramakrishna says point blank, yes, I have seen God, and you can see God too, and I have seen God just as clear as I'm seeing you, actually much clearer than this. And that Narendranath was immediately taken, he was impressed by what he heard. So Narendranath goes back. He had to keep his promise. He's a busy person. He has just finished his what's now high school, you can say, and he's involved in he has his own meditation group. He's into singing, lot of things, but he comes back in some time, and this time Sri Ramakrishna was already in an ecstatic mood. He comes, mutters something, and touches him. And before you know, he started experiencing his losing consciousness. Sri Ramakrishna was actually delivering the knowledge of Brahman right then and there. It is one way of initiating where the actually guru can transmit the knowledge by touch. But his experience, and everybody experiences it differently. What Narendranath experienced is he's being devoured into this void, and the being, it is like experiencing death, because a new person is born, the ego dies away, and he gets scared and said, "What are you doing? What are you doing? I got parents. I got mom and dad." And Sri Ramakrishna couldn't help but start laughing and said, "Okay, that's fine. It can wait." And then again he talks to him very nicely, and tells him to come back again. And this experience, Narendranath is a little confused now, because he was a very analyzing kind of person. He couldn't. For him, this was something, he had pride in his own intellect. And what happened, he couldn't he was thinking, what is some kind of magic? Is it like some mesmerization or what? But he wants to come back again, the third time. But this time, Sri Ramakrishna has him taken to another place. It's Jadu Mallik's garden house where he had access. And this time, he touches him, and Vivekananda, Narendranath, he gets pretty much knocked out. He said, "I didn't remember anything, what happened after that." And Sri Ramakrishna said later on that, at that time, I had him tell me everything which confirmed all my idea that he is who he is. But with these three visits, one thing did happen to Narendranath, that he could see that this guy is a genuine person, and he can help me. And he wanted to keep coming back, but he wouldn't take him. Like Saradanandaji, he makes a point that usually in such cases when a person has this kind of a profound experience, he immediately wants to surrender and accept people as a guru, but not Narendranath. He wanted to have everything decided, understood, before he wanted to take him as a guru. So this is the beginning of a very, what should I say, a great guru meets a great disciple, and this doesn't happen too often in the history of spirituality. Swami Nikhilanandaji, in his autobiography, he makes a point that the inner process that gradually transformed the chrysalis of Narendra into a beautiful butterfly will forever remain, like all deep spiritual mysteries, unknown to the world. So this is how Narendranath became Swami Vivekananda. There is an element of spiritual mystery to that, and which cannot be explained through just words of even though there are, Swami Vivekananda himself talks about it, Sri Ramakrishna talks about it, and people like Saradanandaji talks about it. But still, to understand it fully, we will have to dive into those spiritual mysteries ourselves to figure it out fully. But anyways, so one thing that happens is that, this is just about the time that M comes to meet Sri Ramakrishna, and soon after that. So there is some record of how things happen. For example, Sri Ramakrishna tells Narendranath that, oh, we are like new lovers. You have to keep coming now. You can't just, this is the time when you come again and again. And then when the love blossoms, then it's a different thing. And Narendranath says, okay, I'll try. And one thing that he tells to M, this boy is like a bull. If you twist its tail, or a cow, the ones which kick, they are the ones which people like to buy. So he is like that. He kicks. So one thing that we do see is how much Sri Ramakrishna is attracted towards Narendranath. And there is another account where Swami Premanandaji, he just happened to meet another few weeks later of these incidents. And he says that once I went there and Sri Ramakrishna welcomed them very, very nicely and cordially. And they went to, and Premanandaji, actually he was Baburam and his friend, they decided to stay there for the night. And they retired at around, say, 10 p.m. in the inner veranda. And Sri Ramakrishna, after a while, he just came, like an hour later, and said, oh, where is Narendra? He's talking to the other guy. I miss him so much. I haven't seen him. It's just been 3 weeks now. I haven't seen him for so long. I can't stand. My heart is like squeezing, like I feel the pain. I have to see him. He has so much renunciation. He's like Narayana. And they said, no, that's all right. We'll go talk to him. And then Sri Ramakrishna said, oh, I'm sorry to wake you guys up. He goes back. Again, he comes back after a while. He couldn't stand. Again, he comes back and says, I'm so missing him. I'm sorry to be bothering you guys. And Premananda, he's thinking, wow, who is this person, Narendra? He's so cruel. Look at this person. He's missing him so much. So this kind of yearning, tremendous yearning that Sri Ramakrishna would feel towards Narendra. And one would wonder how a realized soul would be yearning for somebody like that. But it's like when a free person is attracted, there is nothing to stop. It's like a magnet without friction. It just get drawn into that. And there are many narrations like this. I'm not going into that because it will take away all the time. But when he would meet Narendranath, when Narendranath would come there, it would be a totally different scenario. He would be full of joy. There would be times when he would be in a kirtan and he would be dancing and all that. But the moment Narendranath comes, he goes on top of him, sits on his shoulder and goes into samadhi. That's the end. There were times when Narendranath would come and sing for him, and he would be so absorbed in the song, and then his disciples, many people saw him, like Sri Ramakrishna would talk to Divine Mother Kali. And there is an instance where he's saying, "Mother, not now. I want to hear Narendranath now singing, not now." So, meanwhile, Narendranath, he is also attracted towards Sri Ramakrishna. He keeps coming, and of course, he wants to. He is into the spiritual path. But this is the time between now and another 2 years while he's in college. He's interested into, because he has this analytical mind. He doesn't care if Sri Ramakrishna is seeing Mother Kali or not. He has a suspicion. Well, this seems like it could be hallucinations. Maybe the mind can trick you. And but he wants to. He's reading all kinds of Western philosophy. He was a voracious reader, so he's reading up all the doctrines of philosophy, logic, anatomy, and he goes into like medical colleges and interested in physiology and all that. And Sri Ramakrishna likes that, he's actually very happy, and he develops a tremendous understanding of philosophy. He's into debate, and he figures out. He tells, like, there are only so many ideas, and I have kind of known them all. Sri Ramakrishna would whenever he got a chance, he would say, "Okay, you two debate." And whatever arguments would come to Vivekananda, he would just slice and dice them and give it back. And Sri Ramakrishna would always be so happy. Oh, nobody can beat Narendranath. He was like so proud. He was like a mother. But this is the time when Narendranath, on his own account, going through all these philosophies, he kind of figures it out that the truth cannot be realized. The absolute truth cannot be realized by the mind or intellect, and definitely not through the senses. And you might think like, oh, okay, we always know that, but it's one thing to learn from somebody and say, yes, I believe that's true, versus somebody who really gets a wrap around it and figures it out for himself. And then there was one quotation that he would often say. There's a quotation from William Hamilton. He's a philosopher, where he says, "Where philosophy ends, religion begins." And he would quote that often. Everybody knew Narendranath is into Western philosophy, but sometimes he would say something from Bhagavad Gita, and everybody will say, "Wow, look, Sri Ramakrishna," they would say to Sri Ramakrishna, he's quoting Bhagavad Gita. And Sri Ramakrishna said, "Oh, maybe some Western philosophy said something about Bhagavad Gita." But this is the time when Sri Ramakrishna also is giving him some instruction. He is guiding him all the while. There were times, for example, like he couldn't meditate. He would be distracted by a mill sound, a whistle of a mill. And then Sri Ramakrishna would tell him the example of how Totapuri had him pierced between his brows and said, "Meditate on this." So he said, if something's bothering you, meditate on that. And he found that, wow, that's so helpful. And Narendranath himself, he changes some of his Brahmo ideals, where they said that, okay, meditate on the formless. He develops his own idea that I'll meditate not on a particular anthropomorphic form, but on a candlelight in the heart. And Sri Ramakrishna would say, you pray, you pray before you do that. Say, "God, I don't know how you are. Please reveal yourself to me." And then he would go into meditation. And soon he had wonderful visions. There was one time he thought he actually saw Buddha, who came into his vision, but he got scared and he left his seat. But later he felt very sorry but that form never came back to him. So this is the time when he's visiting Dakshineshwar. He's having a wonderful time. And he tells about this time, that this was one of the best parts of his time, that he would have a lot of fun going about in the complex and being in company of Sri Ramakrishna. And he said that now I understand that Sri Ramakrishna, he was actually training me. He was actually training me through play. Like he said, like a wrestler who, when a little boy comes to learn, a younger boy, he pretends to be wrestling, and sometimes he would wrestle down with great effort, and once in a while he would pretend to lose and all that. And that's exactly what Sri Ramakrishna was doing. He said that all this praise that he was heaping upon me, he was actually building my confidence. I can see that now. And he always saw the potential in me. He had a watchful eye on him, and he always instructed him whenever necessary. But Narendranath would not accept him or the experiences of Mother Kali. And he would sometimes say, why then you bother to come here? I said, no, I come here just because I like you. I don't have to believe in Mother Kali just because I'm coming here. So, and actually there was one time, like he, for example, was talking about blind faith. And he said, okay. And Sri Ramakrishna said, well, faith is always blind, isn't it? Tell me, is there any faith that is not blind? And Vivekananda thought about it deep, and he had to accept that yes, every faith is blind faith. And actually, only the experience of the reality is the only authentic experience. Everything else is blind faith. That's the conclusion he came to. Vivekananda, of course, he had this Brahmo background, and he didn't believe in this non-dual experience that Sri Ramakrishna would be talking about sometime. And so for him, God is formless, yes, but is always separate from the devotee. And sometimes when Sri Ramakrishna would talk about non-dual stuff, he would laugh at it and ridicule. There was one time when Sri Ramakrishna talked about it, and he went out to the veranda, and there was another guy called Hazra who he got along very well. And they both started laughing. Listen to this. I am God. You are God. This is God. This pot is God. Everything is God. Ha, 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 ha. And Sri Ramakrishna came out and he said, oh, what are you guys talking about? And saying that, he came close to him and again touched him. And he said, suddenly, I had this experience. And he just felt that everything is one, is not separate. And it just stayed with him. It wouldn't leave him. He went home. He couldn't eat because the food was him. Who is to eat what? And his mother got worried. What happened to you? He would eat for a little bit, and then he would stop. He would lie down, eat some more. If you'd wander around in the roads, he was not scared of the carriages coming towards him. And for a long time, it stayed with him. He used to go to the park and put his head on the railings to see. It just seemed like everything is the same. It's not different. And then, well, how do you argue with that? You know, you can argue with all you want, but when you have the experience, there is no argument. It's just the experience. So while all this went on, well, I'd like to bring another thing bring up. You know, Sri Ramakrishna, one would wonder why Sri Ramakrishna is always heaping praise at him. He's always like, you are the best, he's the best. To his own embarrassment, you know, sometimes he would compare him with, what's his name? The Brahmo? Keshav Sen, thank you. So, and Keshav Sen, he was the most renowned orator of that time. And Keshav Sen came, and Sri Ramakrishna, once Keshav left, he said, well, Keshav is just one part. I see 16 parts in Naren. And Naren is just like a little boy. And Naren would protest vehemently, what are you talking about? This is Keshav Sen, and I'm Narendranath here. Talk some sense, please. And he would say, what can I say? I mean, whatever mother tells me, I'm just telling you that. It's not making up. So much of praise. I mean, does a guru do that? I mean, isn't that the guru always trying to bring you down sometimes? I mean, for example, Swami Trigunatitananda ji. When he came the first time, he came from an aristocratic family. I mean, he had servants running errands in his place all the time. And so when he came with his friends, Sri Ramakrishna said, please come wash my feet. And he's embarrassed, like, oh, I'm with all my friends. What am I supposed to do? What happened? Come wash my feet. So he comes there and washes his feet, and he's all flushed red. But then he says, you know, that's the time when my service opened up, and my spiritual life in some ways opened up. He would, for example, Latu was a constant companion, Swami Adbhutananda. He was always at service with Sri Ramakrishna, and Sri Ramakrishna would say, because he used to sleep in the night, he said, you know what, your services are not required. If this is what you want to do, you have to wake up in the night and do meditation. And he was so shocked by that, he said, okay. And he gave up sleeping all through his life. He never slept in the night, always meditated. But for Narendranath, he had a easy-going thing, nothing of that sort. But Sri Ramakrishna actually did test him. And he says that's the highest test that anybody can be subjected to. And it would come as a surprise, how could that be a highest test? What he did was suddenly he started ignoring him. He would come, do his salutation, and he would just look the other way. And initially, Narendranath thought maybe he's in some kind of a ecstatic state or something, so he would sit in the side. But then he would ignore him, he would talk to everybody else, and this went on for weeks, over and over again. But Narendranath kept coming back. He would come, sit on the side, and then go back home again. And this, after a while, Sri Ramakrishna said, what's going on? Why are you coming here? What do you care? He said, what do you mean? I mean, I come here because I love you. What else I need to know? And Sri Ramakrishna was so happy to hear that. He said, this is the highest. Anybody else would have failed this test. And one would think, why? How is that a great test? Because all of us, have our own little ego. We keep protecting it. We are egocentric. Our life is ego-based. But Narendranath here, he was not ego-based at all. He was knowledge-based, so it didn't affect him at all. But anyways, so this went on for a couple of years. Narendranath was kept on coming. He had a good company in Dakshineshwar. He would go to the Panchavati sometime. He would have picnic, and Sri Ramakrishna would come join him. They would go hold the vines and swing around, stay in Dakshineshwar a couple of days, and again go back home. And then, I think this is a very important part of Narendranath's life and in making of Vivekananda. After he had given his exams for his BA exams of 2 years of college, it so happened that he was at his friend's place, and the news came that his dad just passed away. Now his dad was was a lawyer, and he had a very healthy practice going on. He had a big a mansion. Many relatives used to stay there, but he was the only one who was earning. And Narendra, it was hard enough to lose his dad. And then he figured that his dad was spending as fast as he was earning. And he had left a little bit of debt. And in such situations, his uncles and aunts, they should have come and taken charge of the situation. I mean, they were the beneficiaries of his dad's benevolence. But in this case, they turned against him and his mom and little children. There were litigations running on. This boy, I'm telling boy, he's like, 21. He is now with the responsibility he has little brother, 2 little young brothers, sisters, and what the monthly expense was, her mom used to have 1,000 rupees a month. 1,000 rupees a month. I mean, it's a huge amount. I don't know how many tens of $1,000s would that correspond to now. They had a big estate. Now she had only, I forget, 30 rupees or so. Abject poverty. I mean, there were days when Narendranath, seeing that there's not enough food, he would just say, "Ma, I have a invitation at a friend's place. I gotta go. I can't eat today." And he was trying to get a job. He did get a job, and then things didn't work out. He just kept on going from place to place, trying to look for a job. And his mother's patience was also running thin. One day, she said, he just woke up and said, he did his morning prayers, "God, be merciful and Lord." And he said, "What God you are talking of? You have been praying all your life. And this is where we are now today. What happened to your God?" And listening from his mother was such a pious person, always talked about God, and that was a shock for him. And for a moment he just thought, well then, is there no God? I mean, he remembered Vidyasagar's comment, like, if there is God, why is there so much misery? And then it occurred to him, well, maybe there is no God. And then he just always spoke his mind. He started saying around whatever he thought, that maybe there is no God. And then people started thinking, hey, Narendranath has become an atheist. And word just started, and rumors, they have their own thing. People started saying, oh, he has taken up to drinking. Oh, he's visiting questionable places and all that. And when this message went to Dakshineshwar, some people came back to him to see what's the matter. And Narendranath saw that these guys, they are kind of made up their mind also that is this true? And he wouldn't say no, but he would, in a kind of defiance, he would say, so what? If people do, that's their choice. They can go. If I were to go, I would go. What's the problem? And those guys again went back saying, look at this, Narendra is totally gone. And in some ways he thought, good for me, good, let them think like that. For a while. Then he remembered, like, maybe Master will come to know about this. And it stung his heart. But then he said, okay, if Master thinks like that, that's fine too. And indeed, there was this guy, many people would talk about this to Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna would just keep quiet, not talk about it. There was one guy called Bhavanath who was friend of Narendranath, and he was very dear to Narendranath and Thakur both. So he came to Sri Ramakrishna and broke apart. He said, I can't believe Narendra has gone down to this level. And that was too much for Sri Ramakrishna to take. He said, just quiet, you wretch. Mother has told me that Narendra can never do this. And then, of course, he went to Narendranath. He brought him down to Dakshineshwar, and he tried his best to support him. He would also go and tell people, hey, can you please make sure he gets a job? And Narendranath would not like that at all. But one time, Narendranath had this idea, like, I'm going through so much pain. I know that if Sri Ramakrishna talks to Mother Kali, he always says, Mother Kali listens to me. And I know he had tested. He would always test Sri Ramakrishna, and he knew that was true. He said, okay. He went to Sri Ramakrishna and said, why don't you tell your Mother Kali to take care of my situation? Sri Ramakrishna says, I can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? I won't let you go. You have to do this for me. Sri Ramakrishna says, well, do you think I don't? I do it all the time. But you don't believe in Mother Kali. Why don't you go talk to her? Today is a Tuesday, auspicious day. Go talk to Mother Kali. And Narendranath, well, all this while he had, like, for example, he had rebuked Brahmananda, like his fellow friend who came to Sri Ramakrishna later, but he was also a Brahmo, and they had signed a document that we will not believe in God with form. So, but this is the time Sri Ramakrishna pushed him. Go to Mother Kali, there is the temple. Just go inside and ask for her. And Narendranath said, okay. And he says that as he's walking towards the temple, already he's intoxicated. And as he goes in, this is the form of God, of Mother Kali. This is the form of Mother Kali. Recently we had, Father Paul, who said he went to that place and he saw light, just light. And anyway, in our tradition, not many people talk about their experiences, but to Sri Ramakrishna, it was a living form. He could take a thread and bring it near the nose of Mother Kali, and that would move. That's a test people do if somebody is dead or not, because even if there's a little bit of breath, that thread would move. And when Narendranath moves it, he sees the living form of Mother Kali. And he's in communion. Of course, he didn't remember talking about, give me a job or something of that sort. And all he could ask for is, Mother, give me devotion, give me renunciation, give me knowledge. And then after some time, he comes back. And Sri Ramakrishna said, what happened? Were you not supposed to? Did you ask? He said, no, I forgot all about it. What did you do? Go back again. Yes, let's go back again. Same thing. Second time, again he comes out not knowing what happened. And then the third time, when he goes back, he realizes he can't ask. Like Sri Ramakrishna used to say, when you go to a king, would you want to ask for like pumpkins and stuff like that? So that's exactly how we felt. Like coming here in front of Divine Mother Kali, I can't ask. So he came out and said, no, I cannot ask. And Sri Ramakrishna was ecstatic. He was so happy. He said, yes, today you have accepted Mother Kali. And it's a big event in Vivekananda's life, because it was kind of a turning point. Not just he had his views opened up, but this is also a point where he accepts Sri Ramakrishna as his guru. The whole night he spent singing songs for Mother Kali. The next day, there were some people who came and Narendranath was sleeping, and Sri Ramakrishna just kept on saying, wow, Naren has accepted Mother Kali. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? In the evening, when he's on his way out, Narendra comes and salutes Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna, again, he kind of goes into an ecstasy. He comes near him and says, I see, I am this, I am see, I am that. You and I are the same. And then he said, I'm going to have a smoke now. So Narendranath quickly brings him and gives him a smoke. And he takes a few puff, and then tells Narendranath, you have some. So Narendranath has some puff, and then he wants, okay, now I'll have it again. And he says, no, I just defiled it. I can't. He said, what ignorance? That is me. This is me. Give it to me. And Narendranath, he knew like this is something which Sri Ramakrishna would never do. He was very conscious about this, about being defiled. It had to be pure food. If somebody has it, he wouldn't have it. So in that sense, it was the day when really Narendranath and Sri Ramakrishna became one. We talk of Holy Mother and Sri Ramakrishna being one. This is the day when, and if you have heard this, that Sri Ramakrishna and Vivekananda are one. This is really the day when it happened. On the way back, Narendranath was telling, he kind of said, this Master, he has always believed in me. He's always loved me. And only a holy person can love. A worldly person cannot love. Whatever we think, even my mother's love, I know it's a worldly love. But Sri Ramakrishna is a person who can love. And he said that his faith and love has bound me forever. So, after this, time comes when Sri Ramakrishna, he had his cancer, and then he had to move to Calcutta, and then again in Kasipur for his treatment. It was clear that he's not going to last much longer. And Narendranath, he became kind of the leader. He tried to organize everything around him. Sri Ramakrishna used to always say, Narendranath, he is going to lead all these people. He used to say that, he actually put it in writing, that Narendranath will become a great teacher. And Narendranath would always say, no, I can't do that. And he said, oh, your very bones will do that. But slowly it became clear. If we read the M's record, you can slowly see that how Sri Ramakrishna, he stops talking literally, he starts talking only through sign languages. And Narendranath is doing the talking in the last few episodes. And in Kashipur, but that was the time when all the disciples, they started staying together. And Sri Ramakrishna was there, Holy Mother was there for many months together. And that was a very important time. Vivekananda, Narendranath, he had the experience of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That was the time when he knew his yearning became very intense, because he knew the master is going away. And if I don't attain God at this point of time, maybe the chance will never come. And then one day he did have that experience. And Thakur said, well, the key is going to be with me. You had that knowledge, but now you're going to do the work that you are meant to do, the mother's work. When he was about to pass away, he transmitted all that knowledge. Actually, Vivekananda used to say that Sri Ramakrishna passed Mother Kali on to me. Because Sri Ramakrishna used to always say, the power is inside. You come here. And he said that was transmitted to me. And that would never let me rest in peace, because now I know I have to do this work. The time is less. So I'll kind of move forward and go to Kashipur, where once Sri Ramakrishna is gone, how Narendranath, he is guiding all his brother disciples, and he has the same love that Sri Ramakrishna had for his disciples. He actually wrote a letter and said, the way the master loved you, the way I loved you. So and all the disciples, they knew this time that Narendra is a leader and he's meant to do something great. Thereafter, Narendranath, they all took up monasticism. Narendranath became Vivekananda. And one thing he went about doing is touring the entire country. He just went around on foot, and it was pretty interesting, because if somebody would give him a train ticket, and he would be talking to some people out there, and they would be so impressed. They would take them to their home, and then some more people would come there, and the word will go around. Within 3-4 days, he would be meeting the king of that place. That's and then he would want to go again on foot. But going through so he met very influential people, but he met the poor people, the people deprived. And that was this time, few centuries ago, India used to be as rich a country as anywhere else. But that was the time when, in subjugation, they just went into abject poverty. But wherever he went, he saw there were people who were so poor they didn't have to eat. Their body didn't develop. Forget about their intellect. But still, they would welcome him and make sure that he gets to eat, and that broke his heart. And now what he felt for brother disciples, now he felt for his entire nation now, and he saw like this country has to, you cannot have just such people, poor people. It's just to give them spirituality is like a slap on their face. So that's later on when he was about to go to America for the exposition. He happened to meet his brother disciple Turiyananda, and he said, "Brother, I do not know what you call this religion, the so-called religion, but I do know that my heart has expanded and I feel the suffering of people. So, what was the making of Vivekananda? I think it was love that created Vivekananda. It was love, and Vivekananda was a very not easily, what should I say, subjugated. As a disciple, he was rebellious. He was notorious in his neighborhood. He would smoke in front of his elders. He wouldn't care less. But it was love. It was Thakur's love, more than anything else, that shaped him. And it was his love that he felt towards people, towards his nation, towards humanity in general, that he could contribute so much in a span of 10 years, what he did. He said, I have spent myself inch by inch. So, in India, of course, we see how much of a figure that Vivekananda has become. You see him on the stamps, you see him by the side of politicians giving interviews. There is a Children's Day, celebrated on 12th of January, the Youth Day, right? Youth Day on 12th January. So he's not just in the spiritual realm. Everyone wants to claim a piece of Swami Vivekananda. Out here in the US, people do know about him. There was, Philip Goldberg. He came here. He has a book called American Veda, and he made the point that Swami Vivekananda, his contribution is still there. Just we hear it as Swami Vivekananda's contribution. But all the ideas that he gave are very much there, alive. And for a place like this, I'm reminded of an incident where Sri Ramakrishna asked Vivekananda, "What is it that you want to be?" It's like parents ask their children, "What do you want to be? What is your idea of ultimate?" And he said, "Oh, I would like to just meditate, be in the realm of Brahman, come down once in a while, only when I have to, and then again stay in the bliss of Brahman." And Sri Ramakrishna said, "Oh, is that all? What petty ideas you have? I had big ideas for you. You have to be like a big banyan tree under which everybody is taking shelter." Well, fast forward that, and here we are, taking shelter. We have this Vedanta society. And we talk about cause and effect. That very time when Sri Ramakrishna said, "You have to be this banyan tree," he just lashed out a big wave, and all what we have is part of that wave. And actually, for those of us who have taken him as an ideal, it's much more than that. Swami Ramakrishnanandaji, he wrote a verse on Swami Vivekananda, where he said, when he called him Satchit Sukha Swarup. Satchit Sukha Swarup means consciousness, bliss itself, knowledge, existence, knowledge, consciousness, which is our real nature. So Swami Vivekananda, as Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, They are the same. They are our Swarup, our real nature. And if we remember that vision that Sri Ramakrishna had, where from that undifferentiated luminous region, Sri Ramakrishna came. Sri Ramakrishna came, but Vivekananda also came from that luminous region. That same luminosity is there in our hearts. And if we can pay attention to that, we'll see that it's always part of us. It will always tell us, remind us that life is divine. The purpose of life is to achieve that divinity. Just like Mother Kali had caught on to Swami Vivekananda, let's hope Vivekananda catches us and keeps telling us, stop not till the goal is reached. I hope we would be the making of Swami Vivekananda. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhijit, for a very heartfelt delivery of a narration of the life of Swami Vivekananda. I've heard the stories before, but tonight I actually felt like I was experiencing each event as it was unfolding, so a very nice delivery. I will take a minute to just recollect on those ideas, then I'll give the announcements for the week. Swami Yogatmananda is traveling. I believe he's in Atlanta. He'll be returning on Tuesday, and the Tuesday and Friday classes will go on as usual. Next Sunday, the talk, February 4th, is given by Swami Yogatmananda, and the title is Reducing Weight, Getting in Shape. So it should be a very interesting interpretation, and see how he puts a spiritual spin on those ideas. The other programs for the week go on as usual. Looks like the Hatha Yoga series is on Friday night starting at 5:30 to 6:30. Saturday, February 3rd will be the day-long meditation. Sunday, February 4th is our monthly children's program, Just Kids, that meets downstairs from 4 to 6 p.m. After the RT, you're all invited downstairs for soup supper, and then meditation here at 7 p.m. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us the abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.